Hey guys, it's Celine. It's Wednesday, the 29th of March 23. I am showing you an old photograph of my mother, a portrait of her, right? It's quite a bit zoomed in. I took this photo with my phone from the old photo that I had in my album, and she is at this point about 24, I think, years old. Something like that. This is my mum, as I didn't really know her. I was born when she was 32, so quite a bit older than she is here. I had been going through my photo album and I ended up looking at this one and taking like a snapshot in my phone of this image of her face, because it's the only one I've got actually where I can really recognize her features really well, the shape of everything in her face, all the things. And knowing her life, of course, I mean, she's a huge feature in my personal history and lots of things. And she had already a mountain of problems by the time she was where she is here, So I felt, looking at this photo of her, that I could really see all sorts of, because I really do know her very, very well, I think. I could see the pain and the problems and some of she's putting on a brave face. That was her MO from A to Z the whole time, putting on a brave face. And she was smiling, and I was kind of wondering how there's there's a smile in the eyes, there's a smile in the cheeks, there's a smile in her mouth a bit. And it's probably my dad taking the photograph at the time, so she was in a relationship with him. I do not think they were actually married at that point. But my overall impression and my emotional reaction to this photo of hers, and she's been gone for more than a quarter of a century, so she's no longer alive. I can't talk to her herself, about any of this anymore. And that's one of the issues, is that when I had an age that, when she was still around, I was way too young to be able to sort of put together questions or to dig deeper, find out who she was behind all the things. And all I've ever seen was the first thing I saw in this image, which was actually a lot of fragmentation, which is what I recognize, from myself and from her also. It's where my fragmentation also comes from or came from. I see all sorts of different expressions in this face, and it's like they're not hanging together. So what I did is I used my paint program, which I really enjoy doing, my just basic Windows Paint pre-installed thing, and this is what I made of it. So I added in a couple of images that are actually on either side of her down here, and I will have to go in a bit closer perhaps for you to see that in a bit more detail. This is a drawing I made ages ago. Sorry for the weird stripy pixelation. I'll try to hold this really still. So what happened is I did this yesterday. I incorporated my stickers, my image of my drawing that I did, an image of a clay statuette from somewhere in the Middle East, and this image of a couple of amethyst mushrooms that I just thought it looked funny, like she had a little hat on with these like flowery looking mushrooms. She was a fashion person, so I think she would have appreciated. I was doing this in a spirit of, I think, trying to come a bit closer to sides of her that I, think are positive. And what came out was this total image of her where I had to also re-edit some of the, shading in there because of the images I pasted over the top of her face. I had to sort of reconstruct some of the shading in there, You can see that. If you look closely, you can actually see that's what I did. And the reason why I'm showing you all this is that I felt that this image, and I still do now, 24 hours later, this image is actually quite peaceful. And she is, like, the fragmentation is gone in a way, and she still looks a bit remote, or like she's not really close to you, but she looks more peaceful, and she looks like my mother, like she should have been in a way, at peace and positive and happy, even if that's possible. And then, having done this, I looked back at this one and I could actually see the happy person that I had sort of conjured up out of my paint program and with my images and my colors. I could suddenly see that side of her in the original photograph. And I've wanted to make a vlog about this and put it on my channel just as a weird kind of exercise, because how I look at her defines me also. Also, a quarter of a century after she is long gone, this woman was super important in my life. And if I can see her as more than the fragmented person that history made of her, basically, that's good for me. It really is good for me. And I was pleased and surprised that I could not only look at the image I'd made, and even though it's not perfect and there's a couple of, bits that could be better, the expression became suddenly a lot more focused and a lot more centered in a happier place, and a place at least where some of the fragmentation and some of the problems that she's had to deal with that ended up taking her life, this was not a small problem that she was dealing with. And so hence it is also not a small problem that I am trying to make sense of here. My life now has everything to do with my relationship with my mother, as it was when I was a toddler. I was totally dependent on her, and I didn't have anybody else. And she was absorbed and consumed by her own problems. And here it is like I can connect with her eyes, with her face, and see a part of her that I didn't really get to see. Because when they're alive, people are constantly moving around, even though she was a Taurus and she was sitting in her chair a lot of the time, She was always into something. She was always absorbed and consumed. And so it's like I actually managed to bring out a bit more of a happy side to her that it was, of course, hiding in the real person. And the fragmentation I have seen is like a transparent sheet over the top of the real person. Is something I could think of, Fragmentation isn't real. It is what comes out. It's not that it isn't real in our experience. It's very real in our experience. Fragmentation of people drives us nuts. It's the source of gaslighting. It recreates trauma endlessly over and over. But there's a real person underneath. So hence my exercise here. So this is what this looks like on my screen. I actually managed to magic them both side by side onto my screen here, and I have enjoyed doing this, and It's so silly being able to use my simple Windows Paint thing for this kind of therapeutic exercise. It's therapeutic, and more is changing, you know? Things are actually changing. Things that couldn't change. She died in 1995. So yeah. Thank you for watching, people. I will be back eventually with more intel. So see you then. Okay, bye for now. Ciao.